So the month is winding down, and that means it's time for the Maybe series. Hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alex, and today is the December Maybe series. I'm gonna apologize, like right now, there's like 1,000 trucks on the highway. I live right next to a highway, and I don't know, it's like really loud to me today. Maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't, I don't know. It's bothering me. Anyway, it's already December. It's already December. I can't even believe it. Like, the anxiety and pressure of like the holiday is like really here now. I can, like, every day I wake up and I feel like I can feel it even more, like the countdown to the holidays has officially begun. Anyway, we're gonna try not to think about that too much because I really can't handle it. I really cannot fathom that 2023 is almost over because it feels like it just started. It feels like it just started. I feel like I finally got settled like a month or two ago, and now it's like over. Before we get into it, make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know when I'm posting. I post every week, and all we do on this channel is talk about books. So if you like listening to people talk about books, here I am every week doing just that for you. So the thing about me, my December lineup, like every year, my December lineup, it's always about winter. I can say that. But it's usually like serial killer, thriller, winter. So yeah, a lot of the books on today's list do have like the winter vibe, and then I do have a few that I'm just trying to tie up loose ends at the end of the year. Like I said, the year is like over now, so whatever goals I had for 2023, now's kind of the time to wrap all that up. We'll do a recap of that in January and see like how good I did. Spoiler alert, not that good. But it's fine. That's January's problem. So, yeah, if you're new here, the Maybes is a potential TBR that I put together, just a list of books that I'm interested in reading for the upcoming month. Put a little picture here. I talk about why I chose it and a little bit about what it's about, if I can remember. Sometimes I can't. Yeah, and that's all it is to the Maybe series. It's pretty short, pretty simple, and kind of gives you like a little preview of what might end up in the final lineup for that month. Some of these books will end up in the final lineup. I usually read about 3 books a month. That's been my average for a while, and there is a spot every month on my final lineup for my book club book. I run a book club, so yeah, just depends on how things are going. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. The first book on the Maybe series for December is I Am Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall. So this did make an appearance on a previous Maybe series. And I remember when I first talked about it, I was like, this might be good for my December lineup. And here it is. One of the reasons I didn't read it for whatever month that was because I thought it was just going to be a survivalist book. But then I like went back and reread the blurb. Apparently I didn't read it very well. Because this is kind of like a mystery survivalist book. Okay, so basically this woman is out in a secluded cabin with her dad, who's estranged from her, and they're kind of like bonding or whatever. He dies, the cabin gets caught on fire, and she has to find her way back to civilization. So that's where the survivalist part comes in. And then the other part of it is her dad was murdered, and she knows who murdered him, and so she needs to get to safety in order to solve his murder. That's the other part of it that apparently I didn't even read in the blurb. So this definitely is gonna have survivalist vibes, and you usually like look at the cover, like obviously it's in the dead of winter in, I think it's in Canada, I can't remember quite. But yeah, so definitely winter vibes here. There's gonna be lots of snow, lots of stuff like that, and quite possibly like this mystery thriller murder edge to it. So a little bit of excitement. We'll see. I do remember this was hard for me to find in my library, so like maybe if they have it I can look into it, but you know. The next book on my list is Hunting by Stars by Cherie. This is where the tying up loose ends thing comes into play. Because this has been on my list this has been on my TBR for a while now, and one of the reasons why it's on this list specifically is because this is my last month to close out any series that I have opened, and this would be closing out a series. This is part of the Marrow Thieves series. The Marrow Thieves was absolutely wonderful. I loved that book. I think I read it last November. Oh, maybe it's been longer than that. Oh man. But it's basically like a post-apocalyptic type world where people have lost their ability to dream, and the only cure for that is in the marrow of indigenous peoples. And so indigenous peoples are hunted down and gathered together and experimented on and basically killed to have their marrow extracted to end this pandemic. The first book blew me away. Full stop, it blew me away. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it was just amazing. We're dropped like right in the middle of all this, so we're not really having to see all of the build up and the beginnings of everything. Like, we're right in the nitty gritty of it, of people trying to like band together and survive. And we're following a group of indigenous peoples of mixed ages and location. Like, we're talking about people from like all over the contiguous US, and they're like trying to make their way up to Canada to find more people to band together and sort of like fight everything that's happening. It was just wonderful. It really was. It was everything I wanted and more. Like, it just blew me away. And so this is the sequel, and I think this is the last one. I think it's only a duology. And so, yeah, if I finish this, then I'd be finishing the series. The thing is, this book is really thick. Like, I know Cherie Dimaline just, like, poured her heart into this book, and it's really thick. But this would be a really great way to, like, close out this series. So, like, I don't know. We'll see how I feel. The next book on the list is The Killing Lessons by Saul Black. Okay, this is from another lineup, too, like, way long ago. I think The Killing Lessons was on the December lineup for last year. And then I like cycled it back into another list later. Obviously I've not read it yet. It didn't get read. So this is about a woman and her children that are in a cabin in the woods that get murdered. And the book is centered around the female detective that is solving the case of this murdered family. Yeah, so one of the reasons why it hasn't gotten read yet is part of a series, and like I'm actively trying to like close some of those out. And then the other part of it is, I don't know, I just haven't had time really, because this really does fit like a lot of my favorite things to read. Like, pretty sure it's a serial killer thriller. The winter aesthetic is like perfect here for me. And it has a female detective lead, which is like really great. But also, I read this other book, and now I can't remember what it's called, but I'll put the picture up here. And that had a female detective lead, and I absolutely did not like that book. And I don't know, I know you're not supposed to compare books together, but like that really threw me off and like upset me. And so I've been kind of pumping the brakes on serial killer thrillers, unless they're by authors that I like really trust. So yeah, we'll see. But this ticks a lot of boxes just like right off the bat before we even get into it. This ticks a lot of boxes for me, so I don't see how it could be bad, but I've been wrong before. Next book on the list is The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf. I'm pretty sure I said that right. So this has really good reviews, okay? And just like the cover, this is the aesthetic, right? This is it. This is hitting the winter brief for me like perfectly. One of my friends just read this, and she's one of those people that can like decipher thrillers fairly easily. I am not. I'm pretty lazy when I read, so like usually everything's a surprise. If I figure out a book, it was way too easy, because I'm really not a solver when I'm reading. I'm really just there to have a good time, okay? So I'm not like picking things apart and solving things. I'm really not. So if I figure out the big twist, that means it was like extremely predictable and not probably very exciting. Anyway, my friend just recently read this book, and she is one of those people that like is really good at figuring stuff out. Like, she will pick stuff apart, and she's pretty good at figuring out the big twists and everything. And she said this was very surprising. So, I mean, it's gotta be pretty good, right? So, our main character is a writer, and she goes to this secluded cabin for a break, for like a little writing retreat and everything. So she's there, and everything's great. Big twist is this cabin that she's staying at, 2 people were murdered there and 1 girl disappeared. I mean, right away, that's a little sus, right? Anyway, So she decides to stay, and a snowstorm comes through, and in the middle of the snowstorm, she goes outside, and there's a little girl, like, in the snow, like, half dead. So she brings her in, and she starts, like, taking care of her and stuff, and she figures out that there's probably people looking for her, and not the good kind. So yeah, that sets up like a nice little kind of thriller-ish book. This is supposed to be really good. Like, the reviews for this are really, really high, so I do have some good feelings from this, and a lot of people have said that this author in particular, Heather Gudenkauf, is a really good thriller writer. So a lot of hope for that. This also ticks a lot of boxes on my winter brief and just like the things I like to read this time of year. So yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see how many of these titles bleed into the January maybe. Because I do read this like winter aesthetic brief, like, as if it's snowing and cold outside, this is what I like to read. And we're getting into that time of year, so yeah, I'll be interested to see how many of these titles bleed into January. Next book on the list is The Rise of the Magicks by Nora Roberts. Okay, so this is another one that would be like wrapping things up, because this is the final book in the Chronicles of the One series. And I read that so long ago. I read the first book so long ago, and then I read the second book, and I was just really unimpressed with the second book, and that is why I've been pumping the brakes so hard on this series. And I know that's just not really fair, because usually the third book, like the final book, is like all the stops come out, right? We're getting like these epic conclusion and like tie-up and everything, you know, we're getting everything in the last book. So like for me to just pump the brakes on this was just kind of like, I don't know. It's just the second book really threw me off, and I just wasn't excited by the end of the second book, and that's hard. Okay, so just to tell you a little bit about this book, in the first book, basically a global pandemic has happened, and that has caused people to develop magical abilities. Now, there's some people that don't develop abilities at all, and there's people that develop like light ones, and there's people that develop like full develop. And we're talking about like magical abilities, but we're also just talking about like witches and witchcraft and stuff like that too. And so as we're going along, people are starting to like band together and try and like survive and everything. That's kind of when we start getting this like prophecy type storyline of like a chosen one that's going to like save humanity, right? So that's what the whole first book is about, and there's a lot of really great groundwork laid there. It was really exciting. It had a lot of like really high moments and a lot of really devastating ones. I thought the world building was done really well, really easy, really like fun, but also scary. And so I was really hopeful for the second book. And then the second book, which is called Of Blood and Bone, it really shifts into us like latching on and following the story of the prophesied chosen one. And the problem is with this book is we just cover a huge amount of time, and it's like decades of time, and it was really hard because this character we literally didn't meet in the first book. And so all the character work that we did in the first book was basically like ignored because we spent all of the second book watching the chosen one grow up and come into their power. And so it was kind of like, I don't know, I really liked the cast of the first book, and I liked how it was written and the urgency and everything. And so the second book kind of felt like a drag because we were literally just following around this one character, watching them grow up and become the chosen one. And I don't know, it was just by the end of the book, like, we do get the tie-in back to the first book, but I mean, it was not a small book, and it was a lot to slog through. And it did feel like a slog, and I didn't really feel that connected to this character that was, you know, the prophesied chosen one. And that's also why I've been pumping the brakes on the third book, because, like, I just didn't really feel very much for this character. And if I didn't feel very much for them, I didn't feel connected to them, I just don't know how that's going to play out in the third book. I don't know. I want to finish this one, but I'm not super excited. I'm still not super excited about it, so I don't know. Okay, this is the last one for the December maybes. It's The Last Woman in the Forest by Diane Les Becquets. I think that's how you say it. Not totally sure. I haven't taken French since junior high, so yeah. Obviously this went on for the winter brief, right? Because, like, look at the cover. That's what we're looking for, right? So the storyline sounds kind of interesting, but I do already have a hang up that I don't know how I feel about. So basically we're following this woman that is in Alberta, Canada, and she is working with rescue wolves. I think I remember that right. And so she has a mentor that she falls in love with, and then he suddenly dies. Very tragically. After he's died, she finds out that he had this like whole other life, and he's basically been accused of like murdering a bunch of women. And so she starts working with this like investigator to try and figure out like if this is true and like uncovering his life and stuff. And as she's going about doing that, she's kind of like figuring out that she didn't really know him, and everything's kind of coming to light. And along with all of his past coming to light, it puts her in danger. Right away, lots of good things, right? It sounds kind of like a thriller. We're set really desolate. It's obviously very snowy there. She has like an interesting job. There's a lot of really cool things that are coming from this book. My biggest hang-up is it says in the brief that the guy that she fell in love with died, and he was like accused of murdering a bunch of women. So that to me means that like he's not going to be part of the book. I don't really know how I feel about that, because I would feel better about it if I knew he was alive and like she's finding out that he's like a secret murderer, and now she's like, oh my god, maybe he's gonna murder me too. I feel like that would be better. So already I'm having a hang up on that. Like he's dead. Like it says in the synopsis that he's dead. So like that's not gonna be a surprise or anything. And so it's like, well, what is she supposed to do with this information now that he's dead? Like, besides just like not be in love with him anymore? He's dead, he doesn't care. I don't know. Like I said, I already have a hang up about it. Unless he's secretly not dead. Maybe he like faked his death. I don't know. Like, I just already have a hang up about it. And I don't know. I don't know. And if like she's like getting hunted down by someone from his past, that doesn't really seem that fair either, because like he's dead. I don't know. This is like a huge gaping hole for me that I'm already not liking. So that makes this get pushed down further on the list. If you've read this book and you have an opinion about it, please like tell me yes, it's worth it, or no, it's not. Because this is already like a deal for me. Like it's a thing for me right now just thinking about it. So yeah. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. That's the December maybes. Like I said, I'll pick a couple books from here, and then I do have a spot reserved for my book club book. So I really have no idea how that's going to go. Definitely none of the books fit the winter brief. So be interested to see how that goes. Like I said, I am going to try and finish up at least one series, but there's just no guarantees. It really just depends on how I'm feeling. Whether I'm going to try and tackle the Cherie Dimaline book or the Nora Roberts book, because those are going to be the easiest ones to finish. I just don't know. Neither one of those really fit the brief for my winter aesthetic, but you know, and I'm really already feeling it. Like I'm already feeling like that's what I want to read for December and January. I don't know. We'll have to see. Lots of decisions to make. Make sure you hit all the buttons down below so you know I'm posting. I post every week. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So if you want to go back and check out my January goals, we're going to be talking about that in January, like how I did with that and whether like it all played out well or not. So we'll just see. I guess it'll be a surprise for everybody how that went this year. I will be talking more about winter aesthetic books this month. I'm excited about that. So yeah, I hope you guys will stick around. I hope you're having a fabulous start to December, and yeah, I hope the rest of the year goes great for everybody. Hope the rest of the year, this is it. This is the last month of the year. This is it for 2023. So I hope it goes well. Yeah, so that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.